Uh, Music Friday. You know, when J. Cole drops an EP, Sam Hunt drops an EP. You know what? Life's pretty good. Except now J. Cole's apologized for the one track on the whole album that everyone was talking about and be like, you know what? I don't like the energy it's put out there. Because I love and I respect Kendrick. And look, I'm not a man who's about about the respect. I'm not really a hip hop historian or a music historian. But obviously, beef in rap is kind of what elevates it. You know, we have rap beefs, People that are going at each other. MG, in terms of the modern era, Drake versus Meek, Drake versus Pusha, MGK versus Eminem. And then, we have the Jay-Z versus Nas and Tupac and Biggie, I think we're going at each other. 50 Cent and Ja Rule. Like, these rap beefs, these competition is kind of what makes it. Because otherwise, it's just, people putting clever puns together. Like, no, like, there's got to be why isn't it like that in other genres? Why don't we see, like, Blake Shelton going after Kidney Chesney, There's not R&B diss tracks, Tory Lanez kind of does. But, he's kind of, caught up in a few things right now. But we never actually see, like, we don't see Breaking Benjamin versus Avenged Sevenfold, We don't see Trey Songz versus, Mario. Well, seems like the Trey Songz, R. Kelly's of the world are going through a few things. But you know what? I don't know. It just feels like it's just like it wasn't like you just put that song together in like 5 minutes. Like, you thought about what you're doing, you put it out there. And like not even 3 days after, when you're doing a concert, you are kind of already apologizing and like, I don't want this to go like, it's like you meant what you said in the track. It doesn't mean you don't respect him as one of the best ever. But I don't get, like, you put together the song, you put together these lyrics. It's not even one of those like 8 years later, you're like, you know what? It was really unnecessary. In hindsight, it was immature, blah, 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 all that, gay stuff. But, but, I don't know. It was just very like, oh. And I hate when people are like, oh, that's a soft move, what he did. But I will say, it really kind of like, there's really nothing interesting happening in music right now. And this potentially could have brought attention to a just mainstream music that's really lacking right now. Like, there's not really anything interesting in music. Like, people are dropping songs, but there's not any classic music dropping. And so this was like one of those, like, it would have brought, not that hip-hop needs attention, more attention, but it would have brought like a uptick. Kind of like with Cat Williams, any interview he does now, there's an uptick in the views. Like, it would have brought attention to something. And now it's like, oh, it just kind of dampened it. It really is like, oh. Like, Drake has got to come out and just fuck some people up. Like, he's got to just say some shit, He's got to do a re-diss towards Meek Mill now, But I don't know, man, I don't know. It was just kind of not disappointing, but it was a little odd. But yeah, then Sam Hunt dropped an EP with 2 songs that have already been released and then 2 that were not. And you know what? I gotta admit, he has become one of my favorite artists over the past like 3 or 4 years. he doesn't have much music out there, but he really got me into country music, even though it's not really country music in the traditional sense. But there was a few interesting, he doesn't drop music often. He hasn't dropped a full-fledged album since 2020. He's dropped singles and stuff, a few each year maybe, more recently than not. And although on the first listen they weren't gravitating, his music was one of those, like, because of the patience. And I feel like the reason why he's very patient and a lot of artists are with putting out stuff is, you notice the ones that are very patient with putting out things and they're kind of perfectionists. It's because they're re-listening to their own song over and over and over and over again to see the replay value, to kind of what makes a song replayable, what makes it catchy, what keeps it in people's mind, what keeps people coming back after the first listen, because you're not going to get everything on the first listen, but what brings attention and kind of that human repeatable offense. And I got to admit, he's done it. Is it my favorite songs by him? No, but it's definitely on brand. It's definitely pretty catchy, which is what he does. But something that was interesting, I came across an article or I guess part of an interview talking about, he basically just did a quick interview about, or made a statement release about his EP. And he's like, you know what? I just kind of wanted to put these out there just so I could kind of, to have people that I've stayed pretty consistent to a sound. And now I want to kind of move on to the next thing. Got my attention. It's like, So is he kind of trying to change his sound, And that's a very tricky thing, especially someone who has a lot of tenure. Because he's been a recording artist for about 10 or 11 years now. And not to make it specific about him, but how hard is it to really, when people are accustomed to the sound of you, even though you don't have like 6 albums full of music, but he has enough music out there where it's like, this is what we expect from him. There's a lot of people that have a dislike because he's not really country, but he's had some of the biggest hits over the past decade in the genre. And there's a lot of animosity that comes towards that. And now, is he trying to go towards a more traditional thing? Or is he kind of showing what he's been showing, that he may not really be that interested in making music anymore? Because I think now he's having 2 children, and that obviously changes things. I think having kids probably has changed, like, is this really like what I want to be living in this world that has done a lot of great for me, financial and success, but as all of his public stuff has been out there, it's caused a negative light. Now, a lot of that's on his decision making, but it's like, is that the world you want to raise your kid, where when they look up their dad on the internet, they're going to see what he's accomplished, but they're also going to see some things that he's got to answer to, And I think maybe he's trying to change his type of approach to music, his subject matter. You can kind of have sensed that over the years. It's, in some ways, I think it's been an adjustment, because it's more about, he's speaking from a third person point of view instead of a direct. And that's kind of the issue. When you actually have stability in your life, have a family, when you go from his first album where he's trying to capture something, he's trying to chase after this woman, not in that way, but the album is literally named after her and her city, and how much he inspired her. That, man, I can't have it, but I want to have it. I have to change my ways for this woman, And then he has all that, and he's not this young, lively, hot guy on the block. Pause. But you get it. And so he can't really be writing music about being a quote unquote playboy. He can't write music about just partying and shit like that and just like picking up girls. Unless he's talking about in the past tense, because that's obviously not his life. And it's kind of a weird thing because he kind of has to change his style of music to match what he's talking about. Otherwise, it's just, there has to be a believability. When people know your life, there's a weird thing where you have to meet expectations for what people think of you now. And I think that's where, you know, he may be having like a writer's block or a inspiration of what do I actually talk about that fits the sound and fits into that sound. So I don't know. I just found that stuff interesting, but it was a random Friday music drop, you know. I was not expecting it, you know, but, and I also found, you know, reminder that Drake's For All the Dogs has already been dropped for 6 months. And I'm like, and you know, like those Rap Radar, those YouTube channels about journalism and hip hop, they're like, is For All the Dogs still in your rotation? And no, it is absolutely not. I honestly don't listen to more than I think 2 songs off that album. And it's not because it's bad, but there's just not a lot of replay value. And I think because music is just becoming so, there's no like new singles that are dropping that are kind of riveting. Like the number 1 hits out there, I couldn't even tell you. But I will say, Hardy and Nickelback. I think Hardy is starting to kind of elevate himself. Because his genesis of who he was like a songwriter first in the industry. I believe he wrote God's Country by Blake Shelton. Well, he wrote for Blake Shelton. And now he co-wrote a lot of the big hits in Morgan Wallen's earlier music. And I think even in the more recent music. But mainly before he decided to completely just like make a name for himself, you know. And he's kind of made his own music and like, okay, like this is interesting. And then now he's really starting to like, oh, the musical ability people are starting to take more serious with. He has a vision. There's a directness. It's like a feeling of, this was even before he collabed with Nickelback. It was a very real country rock, not like some bullshit, like Kid Rock shit, like actual country rock, you know, with still that songwriting catchy influence, which actually I didn't know. He actually has a degree in songwriting from, I think, Middle Tennessee or some shit. Random thing I didn't know. But he recently did a Crossroads with Nickelback, which is one of the most underrated shows out there. It's on CMT or YouTube now. You can find it. And there's a lot in the vault from years ago. They had great collabs that I like. But him and Nickelback, they kind of work. And I think they even both had the same producer of their music. So there's obviously that connection. And you can hear it in their sound. But that shit was good. But yeah. Any woohoo. But yeah. Someone should just throw me in the truck bed right now. Because woo. God, I hate having to talk quiet. But yipperoo. Cupperonis. What is the fucking dumbest thing? Is this obsession people have with these cupperonis, which is basically cheap ass pepperoni that's just stale, and they make it in basically looks like a silicone boob. It's basically to catch the grease. I don't know, but yeah. All right, guys, welcome to episode 270. Is it 4? I don't even fucking know anymore. 274 of the Off Beat Podcast with Clint Nelson. I'm your host, Clint Nelson. Don't forget to like, follow, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. But most important, ladies and gentlemen, Don't forget to suck some titties. Yeah. Recording this on April 8th, 2024 at 2:09 a.m. Eastern. Yep. And all it is a reminder that fuck. It's the end of my vacation. But you know what? I'm not going to focus on the negative. But yeah, it's a weird feeling, you know. I'm not upset that my vacation is almost over. What I will say is I did absolutely fucking nothing. Which I knew it was going to go one of two ways. I know I was either going to be doing so much fucking shit that didn't feel like a vacation. But I knew after I would feel more at ease. But at the same time, or it would have gone the way it did. I did absolutely nothing of meaning. I did not progress anything except with the gains and a little BF. Not boyfriend, body fat. And I have enjoyed it. But at the same time, I think when you don't accomplish certain things that you set out, or at least like in the back of your head to make yourself feel more at ease, what I realize is what I learned about myself is exactly what I already thought about myself. And I think it's kind of a proven theory. When people don't have a consistency of work that requires their time that's outside of what they want to do, you realize that people typically veer to doing less and less when they don't feel that restraint on their time. And I realized I had too much free time, as weird as that may sound. But at the same time, again, because I'm a walk-in contradiction and a fart tradition, I realized that, you know what? You give me too much free time, I ain't gonna do shit worth the shit. But if I don't have enough time, then I feel bad that I can't do shit. So I don't know. It's just, you know, I think we as humans, we need that structure and most people can't rely on creating that structure for themselves. We have to have restricted structure and then find the structure outside of the structure to build within the structure. And now I'm just a structural mess. But yeah. But you know what? It's one of those things where the first time I did absolutely nothing. No, I wouldn't say literally, but you know what I mean. Like, I did nothing outside of basic stuff. Like, it was kind of emphasis, because I think sometimes you do have to force yourself to do nothing. And I'm going to stop talking about it, because you know what? I think I talked about this last episode. But yeah. And also, one thing is you do got to live a life outside of everything you do, too. Because I realized doing this, when I don't do shit, I have nothing to fucking talk about. I don't process anything with urgency. I don't go around my life with urgency. I don't do shit with urgency. And I need urgency. As weird as that sounds. Like, I need my time to relax, but I need urgency to actually make the things I do have a urgent, competitive, a constructive, a fermentive, a territorial, a preposition. Now I'm just saying shit. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's a wonderful phrase. But you know what? Overall, it was a success. Successfully booty cheeks. Imagine being known for having the best booty cheeks in your profession. I don't know if I'm talking about sex worker. I will say, one thing, I realize I watch way too much YouTube and a lot of shit that's completely useless. And I think when I get back into the swing of things, I'm cutting out a lot of shit of the YouTube stuff because I realized I spend a lot of time scrolling through shorts of people comparing Starbucks versus Dunkin', In-N-Out versus this. It's like, hey, I'm caught in this rabbit hole, just watching people eat. I literally was just watching someone drive through LA, watching someone drive through New York City. And there's a weird, satisfying feeling of watching someone drive through a stressful situation. Because, God, these cities just look stressful. Like, I ain't gonna lie to you. There's, like, no room to do anything. But there's a satisfying feeling of, at 1 o'clock in the morning, watching someone go through traffic. And I don't know what it is. Watching people drive through the dashboard of what they're seeing. I'm sitting there watching it. Like, and there was 5.5 million fucking views on that shit. And I was one of them. And when you really break down what you watch and why and what you're sitting there doing, you really realize we just like wasting time. And that's why I like watching things with no stakes. Because when things don't have stakes, it's almost like an escape from life that's full of stakes. A1, baby. In hindsight, get it? Heinz 57. All right. I haven't seen one of those things. You know what's weird is like when you don't go out to eat, you never see these things. And I pass by in the grocery store every fucking time. And I realize I pass by it, but I never notice it, if that makes sense. But yeah. We just like to watch some bullshit. Not even like some informational entertainment. Like this stuff doesn't even count as entertainment. I'm watching someone drive. For no fucking reason. It's not like, oh, well, I'm thinking about visiting there in a month. Let me see what the vibe is about. No. I am watching someone drive because I'm like, well, I don't feel like going out driving. So let me get that feeling, you know. I don't know, man. I realize I just got way too much time. And I realize, you know, I think we all realize. I used to be someone. I used to think, oh, watching YouTube is better than scrolling through Instagram or TikTok. And to be honest, I'm becoming one of those worthless losers. Because, you know, you can always say, oh, if it's a longer form, like, there's potential for information that's interesting. You may come across a video that's about some political nymphomaniac or some shit, you know, and the deep state and, you know, the reasons behind UFOs and all this shit. That's at least interesting. That can at least be informative to form thoughts about things. I cannot pass you any knowledge. I watched someone drive through the Hollywood Hills, and all I could think about was like, man, it's really hilly. Like, God, so many hills. This dude's just driving through neighborhoods. And it's just like it's these nice houses. You're like, how? It's like all these houses are at least like almost $1 million each. And it's like a cool retro look, but it's like attached to a wall. There's no fucking parking. Like, if I'm paying $1 million for a fucking house, I am not parking on the street. And all these motherfuckers are parking on the street because they have no fucking driveway. Like, think about how absurd that is. You pay $1 million for the value of a home. And you have to park on the fucking street in this tight-knit street that random-ass people are just driving through. And that's what I took away. It's like, man, these neighborhoods are never ending. Like, legitimately, if you lived up in, like, one of these neighborhoods, like, it would legitimately take you, like, 15 minutes just to get to a main road that goes to a store, that goes to a gas station. Like, shit's, like, it's kind of cool, but at the same time, it's kind of like, man, this shit would get really fucking annoying. Shit's really crowded. HOA's dream, though. I don't know. I just realized I do absolutely. I feel like it was one of those well-needed rests where I'm going to be so much more appreciative of the value of actually being busy really means. I kind of, to be honest, I kind of realize how, like, if I were to lose my job and become unemployed, God forbid, not that it's the first time I've been unemployed, but I can understand how someone becomes just uninspired. I can understand how someone gets lazy when they don't have a job even for a week. Like, I kind of have empathy now. I know, crazy sentence I never thought I would say. I have empathy. I kind of actually have empathy for people, because I feel like once you've been unemployed for like 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, you kind of get used to, like, man, this is nice just to relax. And I'm doing, like, and I can understand getting in that habit of being like, you know what? When you move yourself out of, I guess, the rat race, and I hate using that term, but I guess when you really are on the outside looking in, you really are like, do I really want to go back to this shit? And then you're like, yeah, well, if I don't, I'm not going to be living like this anyways. So, that's the thing. It's like, this would be nice, but like, yeah, except if you don't go back to work, you're not going to be, you're not going to have the opportunity to do nothing for 3 weeks, because you're going to be doing nothing outside with everyone else doing benzodiazepines. That's not the drug. I do want to try Adderall, though. I think if I did Adderall and did this show, whew, that shit would be a hot, sexy-ass mess. I don't want to do Adderall. I should have done Adderall this week. That's a crazy-ass sentence. Someone give me the Addy. Hey, girl, give me the Addy. And she sends the address. You're like, no, the Adderall, you dumb bitch. That's how you know you have a drug mule at D style. But anyways, yeah. I'm on steroids, baby, because you're the Mueller report. Alright, that was bad. I am going to see a baseball game today. Oh, yeah. By the way, this lunar eclipse. Apparently, it's supposed to get dark, but not really dark. It's like something. They're making a big deal, but there's a 105-year-old that says this is his 13th eclipse. And it's like, well, we're making it like this is a once-in-a-century situation, when all it is just, hey, the moon's kind of in the way of the sun in the middle of the day. And I understand it is cool. Astronomy's cool. Space is cool. Having space. Extra storage space. Did I mention space? Space is really cool. Lots of it. More than arm's distance. But the space between these nuts and pregnancy. Hey, you infertile piece of shit. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of a sad day as a man when you can't produce, when you can't have kids anymore because your body just like can't do it. I think that's because honestly, it's like if we can't make kids or make money, we are really just useless creatures in society. Be honest about it. So you can't, you can maybe not have one of them. You can maybe have one not in your arsenal, but that both, you're up for a battle there, buddy. But yeah, I think no, but honestly, I can honestly see how someone, even my age, someone that's perfectly fine, perfectly healthy, could easily apply for a job and get it within a couple days. I can see how someone's just like, you know what? You really do get in a comfort of just like seeing what life is like when you're not drained all the time, you know? And actually, I was actually listening to a podcast earlier, and the two people that were talking about comfort. Comfort is like the enemy of greatness. You know, some of that weird pseudoscience shit. Really, it's just like comfort can be a dangerous territory where once you get like some stability, you make money, you just have comfort where you don't have that, I guess, like I was talking about urgency, and I kind of felt that. And it was just a weak example, like a 1 week example. And in 1 week, you leave me to my devices, literally, and I get way too comfortable of feeling like I have more time than I have. And I went into it knowing I talked about it. I went into the week knowing the ramifications of knowing myself, being honest about myself, being honest about human nature. Like when you go from, fighting for your life, worrying about just the next minute, just worry about the next meal. Am I going to have time for this? And now you have all the time in the world. And you are less proficient when you have more time. So I could really see how someone could get caught in that, like, man, when you have nothing to escape from, like sometimes having a shitty job per se, or sometimes having a unideal situation, sometimes some bad things going in your life can actually be a good thing. Because you have something that escapes, and that escape feels a lot more pleasurable. And it feels like, man, like, if this is what I have to do to escape from this, I got to work 10 times harder towards this, because the feeling of being trapped in this can really just tear down your self-esteem, your confidence, all that stuff. But when you have nothing to escape and life is just then you're going to put type of effort. I even notice on a smaller level, my intensity at the gym was, I worked out twice as much. I worked out like 5 or 6 times in the past week. Typically I only work out 2 to 3 because I just don't have the time or the energy I'll physically be. And I actually got fatter. And I'm not someone, but like I feel like just slightly overweight because I haven't been eating all that well. And I say that to say, when I have so much less time, I'm much more precise on things because I know the ramifications of me not being on my shit. But when I have more time, it's like, yeah, you know what? I'll be all right because there's no ramifications if I don't take care of myself one night, There's no ramifications if I don't drink enough water like that, It's not the biggest deal in the world. But I just noticed my intensity, my focus. It was a definition of just doing stuff. It felt good, but I didn't really feel like I got better, if that makes sense, But, I don't know. Enough jibby-jabbling. Someone put some jambalaya in this sausage, baby. But yeah. Who needs ice spice when you got Clint mice? I say a trice. I don't need no rice. But I'm like a phenotype the way I splice. Don't roll the dice unless you want to lose. But if you got a vice, make sure it's booze. Cause you've been bamboozled. I'm such a fool. Yeah, clown. I would not want to go to that clown motel, by the way. Apparently it's a motel where it's clown paintings. It's not haunted by clowns, but the whole theme of a motel is clowns. And I just, I think that's one of those like tours. Like, why can't we just have, like, they should just make that a tourist attraction, not actual like, hey, you can sleep here. It's like, no. That's like something you go museum middle of the day, like, oh, look at this cool clown motel. Here's $15. Show your kids, and then, creep them out a little bit, Show them what it is about. But yeah, you know, I think maybe I need to try some drugs, Not anything like that. Slow down, I'm with the nuanced culture. Shrooms, psychedelics, LSD, acid. Well, I think ass is enough. Or give me that ass ID. Alright, that was woohoo. But nah, I would want to try like that limitless drug, the real human version, I guess, or Adderall. Like, it's weird for me advocating for this stuff because you know what? Honestly, it probably wouldn't be that hard to find. I could probably literally like ask a couple neighbors, and they'd be like, "Here you go, buddy," and then a little fentanyl in there, and then I may or may not wake up the next day. But hey, I was focused for the moment. Because lack of focus will kill you. I don't know. If I did Adderall, bro, I think you guys would. If I did Adderall, this would be the number one podcast in the world immediately. If you gave me Adderall, well, I don't know. If you did Adderall and alcohol, I'm pretty sure there's plenty of people that done that and it doesn't end well. If you gave me Adderall and just like a few shots of alcohol, hey, bro. The options are endless. Or if you gave me pre-workout, here we go. Give me a pre-workout. Give me some good pre-workout. Workout with the Adderall in there. That after the workout, whew. Like, there's really nothing in the world I couldn't do. All right. And I don't know, I'm not advocating to do things to enhance escapism. What I am saying is I don't think there's anything wrong with this, with trying to enhance your state of mind. And I used to be very like people that want to escape reality is kind of a bitch move. And to an extent, I think doing it at the frequency people do it is a problem. But realistically, they always say you have to get outside of yourself to really see yourself. And sometimes the only way to get out of yourself is you got to consume things that make you feel out of yourself. But sometimes, depending on the person's state of mind, whether it's alcohol, weed, any type of LSD or psilocybin or mushrooms, sometimes those things just make you actually go more into yourself. Sometimes you're too deep into who you are and yourself that taking those things just puts you down deeper in the rabbit hole, and you get to know yourself a little bit too much. And sometimes knowing yourself too much is sometimes not a great thing. But if you take something with the intention of getting out of yourself, almost like seeing from a bird's eye point of view, like how the government sees you through your laptop. When you're wanking and cranking. If you saw that version of you, and you really got a good sense of what really drives you, because we tell ourselves what drives us, but sometimes we need the outside point of view. And really what you're probably saying is you need friends. I actually heard someone one time, they're like, since I don't have any friends, closest thing I have is actually watching the show Friends, and I'm like, damn. That is that's beyond sad, Yeah. And he was not a paleontologist. But I am on the paleo diet, which stands for PEL, because I'm very PEL. Ayo. I'm tired of using technology. Be happy, be healthy. Throw a honey nut Cheerio at a bee, and it's almost like throwing a tomahawk at a cow, because tomahawk steak, baby. Alright. But you know what? I don't know. You know? By the way, did you know Thor had red hair? At least that's what Harry's supposed to have. I'm pretty sure when they were making the comic books, like, we can't have a red-headed hero. The fuck? Come on, you know? Trying to appeal to the masses here. Has anyone with red hair ever made over $10 million? I don't know. Yep. But let me tell you, they always get left on red. There's not many cute, you know, red-headed adults, you know. I'm not going to speak about children or even young teens. But in terms of, like, red-headed adults, male or female, I can't really think of any attractive-looking redheads, you know. I mean, think about Ron Weasley of Harry Potter. No. I mean, Hermione, you know, she couldn't choose between him or the 5'5" twink, you know? There's just not many. I mean, in terms of females, I guess Isla Fisher, the girl who played Enchanted, / was with Borat, also known as Sacha Baron Cohen. And they just divorced after 20 years together. I think 13 years married, 20 years together. And I was like, damn. I thought they were the ones. But hey, you know what? It is what it is, you know? Poor unfortunate souls. How come she never played Ariel? Like in the early 2010s, if they would have made Ariel a Little Mermaid movie, she could have been Little Mermaid. You know? For the culture. No one actually knows what for the culture means, you know. It's all for the culture. Except you're DJ Vlad. Apparently he knows what the culture is all about. Yep. Yep. Whew. Alright. So what do you call a llama with no feet? Mayama. She was amputated. Yep, that is the joke. Your feet were amputated. Anyways, yep. Alright, guys. Whew. I hate doing these podcasts this type of night. I am overheated. I have done absolutely nothing worth talking about, as you could tell. But you know what? I'm a man of my word. And I did it anyways. All for you. But yep. Don't worry. I don't see anyone knocking on my door. But hey, if they were to raid my apartment, I would be like, hey, while you're at it, can you break my laptop so you could buy me a new one? You know? Which apparently there is this. This will be the last thing I'll talk about. But apparently they're in St. Petersburg. I watched a video where Tyler Laveria. By the way, this man is crazy as fuck. This man snuck onto Epstein's Island, the Bohemian Grove. And he literally just went to a park full of, you know, sex offenders. 120 plus of them, which is across from a daycare. And an elementary school, and I think a high school is around there too. And it's literally a trailer park, a mobile park that is specifically child predators, right? And these schools have not made the parents aware of this. Parents didn't know, blah, blah, blah. And the daycare is not even locked. Literally, any of these dudes could walk across the street, just go in there. And it's a touchy subject, no pun intended. Because chances are, as when he interviewed one of the moms that were dropping their kids off or picking them up, she's like, the reality is, as a single mother, quote unquote, of two, a single mother of two, and a full-time student, this was the only daycare that was available. And it was probably on the cheaper side as well. That's a weird thing, you know. If you are a working mom or father, and you can't really afford the best daycare, but you got to go work, but the trade-off is the daycare is not in the safest location for whatever those reasons may be. Do you make the decision to drop out of school? Do you make the decision to quit your job and have I don't know. Because either way, you're kind of sacrificing one for the other. You got to choose which one's worth sacrificing. The money aspect or your child safety, potential safety. So I don't know. That is the tricky. And it's always weird, like, what do you do with people that are sex offenders, you know? And there are levels to being a sex offender. And, like, there's a situation where a guy urinating in a public park, he's on a sex offenders list. Is that the same as being on the sex offenders list for owning, child pornography? Is it the same as someone actually doing something with a 13-year-old? You know, it's all terrible. But I think the bigger thing is, what do we do with these people? Should they be a part of society if they are still a danger to society? And some people throw them in the middle of the forest and exterminate them, or let them have their own little habitat, or burn them alive. It's a tricky thing, like with rehabilitation of people. The answer is not as simple as just separate them, but it's also not as simple as just letting them back in society in full with no type of boundaries, And, I don't know. It's just, what do you do about it? Do people that commit heinous crimes deserve to have an opportunity to redeem themselves? I think people would say for most things. I think certain things, like you start talking about children, 99.99% of people are on the same page with that. You start getting other, like murder is much more forgiven than messing with children. And look, each situation is different when it comes to that. It's like, but I don't know. Like, people make fun of murder. We make long-standing things about O.J. Simpson. Allegedly, we make all these funny things about that. But when we start talking about trafficking, children, and stuff like that, I think that's where people are like, because you're a danger to the most precious and innocent things in society. And I think when you start doing that, there's nothing a child can do to rationalize having that done then. You could argue with murders, sometimes people instigate. Sometimes people push people to passionate levels of just impulse decisions. Like, that's the thing. This man was on camera, found out his wife was cheating on him, blah, blah, blah. This man on camera, she was recording it. This man got a shotgun and blew her face. Now, I think he only got 3 years of jail and some psychiatric probation thing he has to do because he did it out of passion. Like, it was argued because it was within the time frame of finding out something, and he basically pleaded the defense was passionate killing or whatever it's called, and I'm not saying it's right, but I think most people in that situation would be like, you know what, I could see how someone could get pushed to that level where they just say, fuck it, But when you start these other things, we can't say we care about children. We can't say we care about women who bring children to this world. We can't say we care about, especially young girls and young boys that are being taken advantage of by people. And to be honest, in a lot of cases, it's because parents aren't really protecting their children from these situations, and they kind of allow their children to be in bad situations where these things can happen. If we're going to be honest about it, more times than not. You can't prevent everything, but most parents don't do the best measures to prevent these things from putting their kids in positions like this, So, I don't know. But, we live in this society where we always talk about protecting women, protecting children. It's like, that's the most important thing. That's what we care about. And then we have our world leaders going on islands, diddling with kids. We have titans of industry that are making billions of dollars when people are knowingly knowing what they're doing. And all these things happen, and we're just like, hey, that's just how it is, right? What people say and what we actually react to obviously aren't the same. All I gotta say is, just keep your kids in a bubble. There's nothing wrong with being a bubble boy or a bubble girl. Bubble gum. And honestly, the more and more you live in this world, certain parts, honestly, people would be better being in a bubble. Some people just need to be in a bubble, But yeah. All right. I think I'm going to end it there. All right, guys. That's episode 274 of the Off of You podcast with Clint Nelson. I'm your host, Clint Nelson. Don't forget to like, follow, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Most important, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to suck some titties. Yeah, that was one of the greatest episodes I've had. Wink, wink. Typically, you say wink, wink is supposed to be sexual tension, but it was actually pretty lackluster. But you know what? Don't worry. It will be better. I'm sure that's what your stepmother would tell you. It will be okay, honey. You just gotta put more banana pudding jello mix in the crock pot for your cornbread. Hack. Meep meep.